Hi, folks. Figured I'd test something out today. I'm a big fan of actually playing outside right here on my deck. I'm usually facing that way, so I look at the trees and stuff, but I figure that's a better view for everyone than the side of my house. So, what am I doing out here? Well, tea, a little sandwich, nature, and the thing I want to talk to y'all about today is something most of us probably know about, but Starforged. I touched base on this in my How I Got Here video, but I just wanted to go over some things and its importance to me and how I play and how pivotal it was and what I do with it. Very freeform today. Not really going to be playing as much as at all, just talking at the void, at the interwebs, on the tubes with my tea. Well, I absolutely love Ironsworn. The Kickstarter that I had backed, I kind of upgraded and I got the reference guide as well. This thing in of itself has seen a lot of at the table play, both the book and the reference guide. But the things I want to touch base on today, well, are a lot of stuff. But I love that the Ironsworn system, if you want to call it a system, the Ironsworn game introduced me to that whole moves and the powered by the apocalypse style of play, where fiction comes first, and then you use the mechanics to progress the story and to apply the outcome to that situation, and then more fiction. Then you call for a move, and then you roll, and then therefore it's very narrative based. And as someone who talks out loud to themselves, usually with a voice recorder, about what their character is doing and how they decide things, this seemed like a natural fit for me, and it did. It was awesome. Ironsworn, I played hours upon hours upon hours of that game. Many deaths, many situations where I thought that my character couldn't have a way out. I have since learned better, since learned that you can always give your character an out, a narrative out, even if it doesn't seem mechanically possible. You can always do that. And honestly, the Starforged system expands on that and gives you, the player, and your character many opportunities to sway the story in a way that favors the story and not necessarily the character, but keeps the character the focus of that story, even when it seems that all hope is lost for that character. There's always a way to make something important and something interesting happen. And that's what I love about the hobby as a whole. I love that we can have control over the world. And as world builder, as a world builder, I like that I can step into a character within those worlds and explore them and see if things need to be tweaked or whatever. I have several ongoing kind of campaign settings or just, system agnostic places that I like to build on. I have a major sort of themed for D&D, but doesn't need to at all, called Avonland, and I have some pretty cool ideas for that world. Haven't really utilized any non D&D rule sets to play in that world yet, but I don't see why I can't do it. But back to the topic at hand. Ironsworn sort of sold me on the sci-fi, and I think I touched base on that before, but the the whole idea of a perilous galaxy wasn't new, right? Like I used to read sci-fi, I used to watch and still do watch a lot of sci-fi content, whether it be YouTube on streaming services, some books. Not a big reader anymore. Gave that the old college try, and books and me are really difficult. That's a probably a video in of itself. But I loved movies, television, and later campaign settings for various like role playing games. Never got into playing within specific IPs like Star Trek or Star Wars or Babylon 5 or Firefly. While they are interesting and there's a nice tone to some of those settings, I found it very hard as a world builder and a GM to remember all of those intricacies in a game, but but following as a player, it's hard to set yourself as a separate character from other major characters in those universes. I remember as a kid, a lot of people wanted to be Han Solo or be Leia or be Luke Skywalker, and they would build characters associated with those qualities. So they weren't really doing anything new or different with them. And not to say that that's bad, it was just not jiving with me. It's just not how I like to play. I like unique characters that are separate from the universe in which they are playing within, so they feel different. So when I discovered Ironsworn Starforged, it was like a lightning strike. It was wow, I'm building the world first. One of the key elements of building a solo game and going forward is, where does your character come from? Why is that character doing the things they are doing, and why did the decisions matter to them? Well, it all comes from their background and how they were raised or whom they interacted with before. And it's basically impossible to build in my humble opinion, a quality character out in a void, in a bubble, without any interaction with the world that they come from. So Ironsworn and Ironsworn Starforged allowed you to build these called truths, like what is true about your world. And a lot of them are leaning toward a specific vibe in the game, but you can play Firefly with Starforged. You can play Star Trek with Starforged. You can play low fantasy, gritty, dark setting in vanilla Ironsworn. It's just reskinning some of the assets, and it's, again, I hesitate to keep waxing poetic nonstop, but I found it very easy to sink my teeth into creating a world and then flowing right into where does my character fit in that world and what made sense. And because there were no specific needs of classes or anything like that, you can literally pick any sort of entity within that world. Ironsworn Starforged leans toward human-centric, and honestly, I am perfectly fine with that. I find it easier to play as a human, as one myself, and to see what a human would do in a wild, weird setting. And that's just how I like to play. There's lots of people who love to play as wild, weird, alien type of creatures, surrounded by humans, and that's great. And you can do that in any game, really. You just need to reskin some things, and it's not that difficult, especially as a soloist. You can do anything you want. It's really that simple. And after a few games of getting my feet wet with Starforged, I was starting to feel, wow, this is really cool. I want to introduce some interesting elements to the game that is not vanilla Starforged. I was not getting tired with it in the least. I was in the narrative. My character was wanting to explore something different. And what better way of exploring something different than introducing another system or another resource book into the game you're playing? Starforged is self-contained. You don't need anything but this book to play the game, and that's really cool for anyone just getting into the hobby too, of course. Like anyone who struggles with multiple books and multiple charts and tables and everything, and jumping from an oracle to the book and then back and forth can feel daunting. After a while, you can get used to it, but to first get into it, it's really easy to say, hey, this is all you need to play. Bam. And it's a big, thick book. The rules are super simple. And the only thing that is really fleshed out are the locations and the moves. And then there's a move for so many different options that you can, on the fly, decide that I need to do this. And then you just find a move that fits to what you want to do, not try to fit what you do to what you have access to. And I like that about Starforged. So, to wrap around, I was looking for a setting that was interesting for my character to interact with, but wasn't so far out of its realm of the world truths or the forge, truths that I had already developed. So I got myself a copy of Vaults of Varn. This book by Leo Hunt and design and layout by some person I unfortunately cannot pronounce. Fantastic setting, lots of tables, amazing creatures, very, very, very easy to sink your teeth into the setting. And honestly, a lot of the mechanical things in the game for Vaults of Varn are basically very easy to sort of insert into a Starforged. Like the monsters, really simple to just make them troublesome or epic or whatever based on the stats within Vaults of Varn. And like this setting is very much a oh, what's the word? It's like a post-human world. Now, the setting calls its main planet Earth with URTH, and it doesn't take much to say that, well, it's Earth that this world is. But the whole idea is that the sun is dying and it's this vast blue desert. Now, this is the color, right, of the sand and the silt and the sky when it's filled with all of the dust storms and stuff. And so I had my character crash land on Earth. Now, I didn't want it to be Earth. I just wanted to use it as a setting to play. And I made an epic quest. Or it was it. I don't think it was full epic. I think it was one right below that. Extreme. An extreme quest that he landed, and I had to acquire ship parts. Now, again, I utilize the assets in Starforged like the workshop, the engines and stuff like that as parts that I had to fix. So so he had crash landed and he had to go out into the sands of Varn and explore and find parts and stuff like that. And because this planet has been post-human and is effectively a wasteland, it was really interesting to have a star-forged, space-born kind of experience, but on like a desert planet with the same rules as Starforged. I'm rolling the action die, versus the challenge die and everything, and it's just so much fun. And I kind of want to get back to it. And I I had utilized the weather hex table, this amazing little chart, while I was on the planet, and I kept rolling like these weird like sandstorm things that were happening. But every time that had happened, new materials and stuff would be falling, not falling down from the sky, but being unearthed from the sands, and a new encounter with possible new resources for the ship. And let me tell you, adding this new like content from the setting just breathed new life into the campaign at the time. And I found that me as the player, I wanted to play Starforged solely in this world for a while. So I made a separate series, and I used the same character and the same sheet and everything, and just transplanted the the campaign into this. And I started recording, I think, like 9 or 10 sessions. So I have like 9 or 10 hours worth of like content of my character wandering through the sands of Earth, finding materials and stuff. And it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. And obviously, as life as an adult with many things to do, with family and and a job, I had to put it aside, and I moved on to something a little bit simpler. I can't remember what game I started to play, or if it was like a video game or whatever. But that was the last thing I did with Starforged, and I really want to do it again. And I think what I'm going to do is, I think I'm going to start a brand new game, but in this sort of setting. And I'm still going to fill out the world truths, or not the world truths, the forge truths, but I'm gonna like localize them to being planet side. So it's effectively going to be Ironsworn and being stuck on a planet. But I think the epic quest, the epic thing is to fly to the stars. I love that idea of having a character find an old battered starship, and he finds a reason that he doesn't want to stay anymore. And there's been stories of old where people used to come from the stars, and the 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 denizens of Varn used to go up to the stars, and there used to be trade and galactic combat and all this, but all that's been lost because it's just been this blue sand pit of a wasteland for millennia, and everything's been just lost to time. And it's stories turn into legends, turn into myth, turn into just hints of ideas that are nothing but old old wives' tales and cranky old men with screw loose talking about things, and no one giving them any ounce of credibility or thought about any truth to those stories. And even though there are nano machines that are in things and there is technology around, people have dismissed it as lost art that of Earth itself. And I just love the idea of one of these guys getting out and escaping into the greater Starforged universe. And I'll use Starforged as the game itself. I'm really excited about that idea. So I think I'm going to probably start that soon, and it'll probably be an ongoing series, waffling between currently Shadow Dark and then Starforged. And yeah, I think that's definitely going to be it. I really I'm liking how I'm approaching these games these days. It used to take me a long time to just start playing, and it used to take me a long time to come up with ideas too. And then I get stuck, and then I would build the character, and then I would waffle on how to start the game, which is just weird. Like, you just start playing, you just start rolling the dice. And I know I say that now, but I had a real big trouble starting things because I had come from playing with people, playing with someone on the other side of the table, usually me as the GM, and there was players at the table. So it was a very weird change to go from that to just me in my head. And for a long time, I didn't record my thoughts or anything. So the only games that really worked were very procedural and solitaire-like, meaning you roll dice or you flip a card and you do something and you get something in return. It's very mechanical. And you can apply story to it, but you don't need to. I'm currently playing Courier, which is a Wasteland Trader survival game. Can't remember the author off the top of my head, but I do know that it's the second edition, like repacked, is currently on Kickstarter right now. Oddly enough, I started playing it again about a week before the Kickstarter, so now, of course, I jumped on that. And but I've been playing that, and it's a very procedural game. Now you can add story, because you can collect things. It's just called cargo, but it could be anything. And you do run into factions, and they could be any one. And you can find these anomalies and these artifacts and stuff, and they're just very generic things that mechanically it's a really cool game, but it feels very procedural. It's like a hex crawl procedural thing as opposed to something like For Against Darkness, which is very procedural dungeon crawl. But the idea is that you don't need a story for those games. You just play, and anything that's up in your head can just stay there, and it doesn't need to be expressed. But lately, I want to express the play that I'm doing. And so that's what this is. So I got to thank you all for joining me on this journey. And I think I'll end it today. I think it looks like it's about to rain. So thank you all for joining me today. And until next time, I'll see you on the flip side.